Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Emma Campbell, and today me and my partner, Lauryn Rush, will be presenting our valuation analysis of the United Parcel Service, or what we call UPS, which we have been working on throughout the semester. So we will be discussing what makes UPS a strong company, as well as some of the future advancements that they have coming along the way in the future. So let's begin by taking a closer look at what UPS actually does. So UPS, or United Parcel Service, like I said, is a global logistics powerhouse, that specializes in small package delivery and supply chain management solutions. So they're actually headquartered in the United States, and they deliver to over 220 countries and territories. This is making this company one of the most far-reaching logistics network in the world. Obviously, there's some other great competitors, like FedEx, but UPS is really up there. In terms of services, UPS is widely known for its domestic and international delivery operations. So this is not just ground transportation, but both air and ground transportation. So whether it's next day air shipment or standard ground delivery, UPS has the infrastructure and operational capacity to meet business and consumer needs. Beyond the delivery part, which most people think that's what UPS only is, they have a full supply chain service platform. With this, it includes logistics and distribution solutions, which this essentially helps business store, manage, and ship inventory. You have the freight and truckload brokerage, which also supports large-scale shipments across land, and then forwarding services. So this includes air, ocean freight to move the goods globally. And then, last one, we have UPS Capital. So this is the company's financial arm. So they offer services like cargo insurance and trade finance. So this is just some of the service offerings that UPS offers to serve clients across industries. They have retail, e-commerce to healthcare and manufacturing. This is kind of shows why UPS is one of those far-reaching companies in this industry. Moving on to some major recent developments. So UPS has made several key strategic moves recently, and they've had tremendous growth in the past, but they're just continuing that growth now and into the future. So first, it's actively expanding its healthcare logistics operation. This is a goal of the company that has been one of their top goals for the future. So acquiring companies to strengthen that area is essential. As well as growing its air cargo network. So like I said, some people think it's just land transportation, but it's both air and land. So adding more flights, expanding their hubs, this goes along with it. On the tech side of the company, UPS has implemented AI technology. So this is something that is vastly growing in our world today. I think everyone knows it. I think it's just going in a direction that it's only going to continue to grow. So they have expanded AI technologies in warehouse operations and tracking systems to improve efficiencies within the company. And then lastly, their focus on sustainability. I think this is a direction that they want to go in. I think this is a direction that almost all companies want to go in right now, just with how our world is shifting. So investing in electric vehicles and other green initiatives as part of their long-term ESG strategy, just to kind of grow that side of the company. In terms of the company outlook and earning projections, so UPS, like I said, it's had tremendous growth in the past. It's only going up from here. Their future outlook is driven by a number of positive trends and strategic priorities. One of the key focus areas, like I said, is the healthcare logistics. They've been wanting to grow this for a while now, and this is their chance to grow in the future. So they've been investing heavily in the space by building temperature-controlled facilities and the capabilities to cater to those unique needs in the healthcare sectors. You got to kind of treat that building. You're caring for these individuals that are going through a tough time or going through something that needs a little more extra attention. And then with the global demand for healthcare logistics on the rise, this is a key investment position that UPS is in, and being such a high key player and a high margin in such a fast growing market in the healthcare logistics. This is a great position. This is a great opportunity for them to be in. From a financial perspective, UPS is expected to deliver strong results. Like I said, we've seen strong results. They're going to keep showing strong results. So analysts project revenue growth to remain steady, driven by international expansion, rising e-commerce volumes, and then moreover, their earnings per share or their EPS, that's forecasted to grow 6 to 8% annually over the next 3 years, supported by pricing power, cost efficiencies, operational skills. And like I said, in summary, UPS, it's just maintaining its leadership. It's a strong company in its industry, and it's going to remain a strong company in its industry. It's actively evolving with market needs, investing in high growth segments. That's going to actually add to that growth and that success in the near future. So for the discounted dividend valuation, we actually used the discounted dividend model to estimate the UPS intrinsic stock value. So we used a dividend of $6.48 and a 5% growth rate, along with a 9% discounted rate, and we calculated that stock value to be $162. And that's based on our formula that we used. It was the dividend discount rate minus the growth rate, which is where you see that 6.48. And the 0.09 subtracted by that 5% growth rate to get your $162. So this kind of suggests that UPS, it might be fairly or slightly undervalued, depending on what the market price is. In summary, like I've discussed throughout this presentation so far, UPS, it's not only a strong player in the logistics and delivery, but it shows its adaptability through innovation and strategic focus through other parts of the company, growing that healthcare logistics, growing sustainability. This is just going to continue to show why they are such a strong competitor in this industry. So now I'm going to pass it on to my partner, Lauryn, to take on the rest of the presentation and kind of take you through a few other topics to be discussed.
So for the free cash flow valuation, Emma and I decided to use the free cash flow to the firm. It is the cash flow available to the companies and suppliers of capital after all operating expenses, including taxes, have been paid and necessary investments in working capital and fixed capital have been made. This is an after-tax cash flow. So the assumptions that we had used to come to the free cash flow to the firm was earnings before interest and taxes, otherwise known as EBIT, of $13.40, less taxes of $2.81, net operating profit after taxes of $10.59, adding back depreciation and amortization of $3.20, less capital expenses of $5, less working capital of 0.50, which brings us to a free cash flow to the firm of $8.29. Next is the residual income model. The residual income valuation, in this case, we used a single-step valuation model, which assumes a constant rate on equity and growth rate. We used the trailing 12 months from December 2024 for ease of available information. So the assumptions that we had used to come to the residual income valuation for B0, which is the book value of stock at year 0, is equal to the shareholders' equity of 16,743 million divided by shares outstanding of 854 million, which gives us 19.605 million. Return on equity is equal to net profits of 5.782 million divided by shareholders' equity of 16,743 million, which gives us about 34.53% or rounded up to 35%. We'll use a constant growth rate as stated before of 5% and a required rate of return estimate or assumption at 7%. The formula is B0 plus return on equity minus required rate of return divided by required rate of return minus the constant growth rate times B0, which gives us 22.30. Next is the market-based valuation multiples model. There is the enterprise value and price value. For enterprise value, we use the enterprise value to EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, which is one of the widely used valuations under the enterprise value model. So the enterprise value based on December 2024 information was 127.86 billion. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization ended up being 12.077 million. So then we take the enterprise value divided by EBITDA, which gives us 10.587. Next is the price value. Again, we are using the most widely used ratio, which is the trailing price to earnings ratio. Assumptions, the price in December 31st, 2024 was 124.32 million, and diluted earnings per share at that same time was 2.01 million. We take price divided by earnings per share, which gives us 61.85 million. The enterprise value multiples relate the total market value of all sources of a company's capital to a measure of fundamental value for the entire company. In contrast, price value multiples are ratios of a stock's market price to some measure of fundamental value per share. This helps us determine whether our stock is undervalued, overvalued, or fairly valued. In this case, UPS is considered undervalued or fairly valued. For the final valuation investment action, United Parcel Service, as one of the top companies in the industrial sector, is expected to continue to grow in revenue and services. As plans for expanding business begin to unfold, UPS is expected to remain stable while benefiting their customers and shareholders. This stock is considered to be undervalued or fairly valued, making it an attractive investment. UPS is working on new acquisitions in healthcare, expanding their air cargo business, diving into AI technology, which will help streamline processes, and they are working on sustainability initiatives. Thank you for watching.